Hi everyone, today I'm gonna be showing you guys a gameplay of 4000 Corruption. Enjoy, and please stick around if you want to learn more about the build.
It's all about humanity. About humanity. It's all about humanity. About humanity. It's all about humanity. It's all about humanity. About humanity. It's all about humanity. About humanity. It's all about humanity.
In order to push to 4000 Corruption, I have to make some modifications, and these modifications focus on a more defensive build overall compared to an offensive build. So notice I changed my Frost Claw to a fire skill, and the reason for that is that we'll be able to use teleport in conjunction with Frost Claw in our skill bar. And we would need a cold fire cold combination invocation to be able to cast Rovin's Frostguard. So that's why we would change our Frostclaw to a fire skill instead of a lightning skill. And you would ask me, why would we need teleport in the first place, and this kind of screw up our Frostclaw because it's now a fire skill, and this actually reduces our damage by a margin. So the reason why we use teleport instead of a flame rush is because when we cast teleport with round warp equipped, we are able to be immune for 1 second, and we also stun enemies for 1 second. We stun up to 10 enemies at a time for 1 second. So it has a cooldown of 3 seconds, which makes it has a downtime of 2 seconds, and it's actually pretty clutch because we will be immune to any sort of damage, and if timed right, this is really good at high corruption. It gives you immunity. So Round Warp is actually a pretty underrated item because it gives you a lot of spell damage, plus 60 spell damage. It also gives you plus 3% increased spell damage per 1% increased movement speed. Our spark charges scale with intelligence, and we would have a really high damage, very high base damage to calculate from. And this increased spell damage is going to scale really, good with it. So when we use Round Warp, we also get a chance to gain haste, which also gives us more damage. But when we use Teleport, we gain 35% increased cast speed and movement speed for 10 seconds. And that's really good. But the main reason as to why we are using Round Warp is the 1 second immunity after we cast Teleport. So with that covered, let's talk about Frostclaw. So we used to have 27 points in Frostclaw, now we have 26. Fragment of Enigma used to give us +1 to lightning skill, but since Frostclaw is now fire, we would lose that 1 point. When we lose that 1 point, we would not be able to put a point in Frozen Malice and still be mana sufficient. So we would take 1 point out of Frozen Malice, and so I could be wrong about Frozen Malice. What I believe Frozen Malice does is it allows the second cast to be aimed. If we take Frozen Malice out, the second cast would not be aimed, but it would be casted at 4 meters behind the first cast. So if we take Frozen Malice out, we would not be losing a cast. I mean, I could be wrong. If I'm wrong, please feel free to put it in the comment section. So we would take 1 point out of Frozen Malice, and we would also be taking 2 points out of Spark of Celerity. Remember that Frostclaw used to have 27. We used to be able to put 27 points. Now we are able to only put 26 points. So we take 1 point from Frozen Malice, 2 points from Spark of Celerity. So we will lose 1 point, so we have 2 points left. We will put 1 point into Bright Frost, 1 point into Cohen Ballista. So we don't really need a lot of points in Spark of Celerity when we do not have Frozen Malice. 22 mana cost, Frostclaw is going to be mana sufficient. So the reason why I put 1 point in Bright Frost and 1 point in Cohen Ballista is because I use Ice Barrage as a sort of attack which applies spark charges. So notice when you have Cohen Ballista spec'd, you would get Ice Barrage to increase rate of fire when you hit an enemy with Frostclaw. The Ice Barrage would fire faster for the rest of the duration. So that gives us plus 80% rate of fire. So that would be a really high rate of fire of Ice Barrage when our Frostclaw hits an enemy, and that in turn allows us to get more spark charges because we would have a 12% chance to apply spark charges on hit. When we have a very high fire rate of Ice Barrage, we get an additional source of spark charges. An additional source to proc spark charges. Obviously, you could choose not to use Ice Barrage, and instead of putting 1 point into Cohen Ballista, you can put the rest of the point into Bright Frost. Notice I have Flame Ward specialized, but I did not put it in my skill tree, and the reason behind that is because I have Astonish, and when I'm playing, when I'm mapping, I do not really use Flame Ward. I do not really cast it manually. It is automatically casted when I'm stunned. So enemies at higher corruption tend to stun you a lot, and Flame Ward will be automatically casted, and you will mitigate a lot of damage. If you cast it manually, it's not guaranteed damage mitigation. When you have Astonish, it's cast automatically when you get stunned, and that gives you a lot of damage mitigation, and that's guaranteed damage mitigation. Instead of you manually casting it, and you might miss a window. Having Astonish is really a game changer if you do not have this already. I did take 2 points out of Feel the Flames and 1 point out of Dwell Aegis. We do not need Dwell Aegis. Because we have Astonish, Dwell Aegis is actually a double-edged sword, because if we were to be stunned 2 times in 1 second, Flame Ward would be casted 2 times in that 1 second. And that really defeats the purpose of having Dwell Aegis. We would be casting Flame Ward and for no reason, and we would also add 2 more seconds to our cooldown, and that's really not efficient at all. So our Flame Ward is going to be going to have an uptime of 4 seconds with dilation. We would have a downtime of 6.5 seconds, and during that 6.5 seconds, we can cast Teleport and Snap Freeze to get out of harm. So when we take 2 points out of Feel the Flames and 1 point out of Dwell Aegis, we'll put all 3 points into Frost Guard. So what that allows us to do is when we cast Flame Ward, we are guaranteed to have a very huge damage mitigation. We would have 30% less damage taken, 40% less heat damage, 30% reduced elemental damage taken, and 1000 armor. And this 1000 armor scale with our armor percentage from our skill tree, from our passives, from our strength as well, and that's really good. So if you do not want to have Ice Barrage skill, you can still use Flame Ward, and you can still have the flexibility of casting it manually if you want. It's totally up to you. When you cast Flame Ward, your armor is increased to 64%, and that's really good. So now let's move on to the items. I did change my items up a little. When you change Frostclaw to a fire skill, you would lose the ability to apply shock on hit. Because Frostclaw is no longer a lightning skill, you would be igniting enemy with Fire Frostclaw. So I had a wrong warp. I had a 3 LP wrong warp. I used to have a 2 LP wrong warp with similar stats: T7 increased cast speed, T5 critical strike multiplier. So I have a 3 LP wrong warp, and that has a T5 chance to shock on hit in it as well. So if you do, you can actually have a chance to shock on hit on any of your items. You can even have it on your idols. It's actually really easy to get chance to shock on hit. So I did make modification to my Fragment of Enigma. I used to have a T7 critical strike multiplier. So the most ideal stats is T7 cast speed, which I now have. I also have T5 critical strike multiplier. So I also get dodge rating instead of fire resistance. I already have a cap fire resistance, so I do not need fire resistance. I need dodge rating. So dodge rating is actually one thing that we really want to focus on as well, because defenses have a, when we skill defenses, it has a diminishing return. Because our dodge rating is so low, we would want to increase it to maybe like 30%, to like a sweet spot where we get the maximum out of armor and dodge rating as well. So we, as mentioned earlier, when we cast Flame Ward, we get 64% armor, and that's already a lot. I mean, we just need to increase our dodge rating if we can. So right now, our raid ring also increased our dodge rating by 17 and 16%, and I also do have idols that increase dodge rating as well. And these are idols that increase your dodge rating as well as the resistance, as well as capping resistance that we need. So as for passives, we have to take a 1 point out of Runeward Hurricane because we are no longer using a Lightning Frostclaw build. So we'll lose plus 10 spell lightning damage, but that's okay because we want to focus on defense. We put 1 point into Runeward Inferno because we'll be using Fire Frostclaw. So it does increase our Frost Claw damage by a little since it gives us plus 10 spell fire damage. But what we really want from Revert Inferno is plus 3% armor per stack of shock on the enemy. So this would be we would be able to stack up to 10 times of shock on enemies, and we'll get plus 30% armor from Revert Inferno. We would have to remove all 7 points from Celestial Doom, so we would no longer, since we would no longer be able to brand enemy from Brand of Deception. So we would be losing out on plus 7% more damage, more spell damage to branded bosses. We would also lose plus 7 spell damage as a passive. That's a lot of damage, but again, we want to focus on defenses. So we do not really need Ward Gain versus branded bosses to begin with, because we would be permanent stunning the boss anyways from our Snap Freeze and Teleport, or even with just Snap Freeze alone. So we will remove all 5 points from Brand of Deception. Since Frostclaw is now at a fire skill, we will not be able to cast this anymore. We'll not be able to trigger this anymore. So all these points we would have to respec into other passives. So we'll put 1 point into Jagged Wheel. We used to have 4 points, now we have 5 points. So we'll be able to gain an additional ward on crit now. So because we'll be creating a lot, and we'll be able to gain more ward as a result from Jagged Wheel. So we also put 1 more point into Attic of the Silent. We used to have 5 points, now we have 6. So we would be able to get a slightly increased area for area skills, not too significant, not game changing, but it also gave us additional ward per rune on area skill use. We would always have 3 rune from Runic Invocation, so we would always be getting 24 multiplied by 3, 72 ward when we cast an area skill. And Frostclaw is an area skill, so we would be able to get 72 ward every time we cast Frostclaw. I put 8 points into Sphere of Protection. It gives us plus 64 health, and it reduces damage taken from Ignited Shock or 2 enemies by 8%. This is another source of damage mitigation, and it's really good. We also get plus 64 health. Any source of health is really good because Twisted Heart gave us additional, because we indirectly gain more ward when we have more health, because 8% of our current health would be converted to ward when we use an elemental skill, which is Frostclaw, so any increased health would increase our ward indirectly. So on the sorcerer tree, I put 2 more points into Essence of Celerity, so that just gives us more spell damage per stack, and that's about it. You could put those 2 points into Mana Shell for armor, or any other passive if you want, but I just prefer this, and I might end up respecing this, but this is what I have for now. Also, I failed to mention that I did change my idol. I did use 5% increased health and plus 15% cold resistance, so I can cap out my cold resistance. I use 5% increased health, as I mentioned before. Any source of increased health is going to indirectly increase our ward gain because of Twisted Heart. So to summarize, this is a really defensive build. You don't really need to use this build up until like 3000 corruption. You can even apply this build at lower corruption. It doesn't really matter. If you apply this build at lower corruption, you'll be able to push higher corruption even with lower gear, because you will be more survivable. You will take a longer time. So it's completely up to you if you want to have this build, or if you want to still have a lightning build, lightning frost claw build. But once you reach like 3000 corruption, you would want to kind of switch to this because of all the sorts of damage mitigation and damage reduction and immunity you get from teleport. And I mean, I could definitely improve this a little more. And if you guys have any ideas or any suggestions, please feel free to write in the comment section so I can adjust my build accordingly.